I'm not sure why anything that this company does still surprises me at this point, but Crunchyroll has in fact did it. Not only have they locked their online store behind the top 2 premium tiers of their subscription model only, as I discussed in my last video, but they have also now, a few days later, begun adding exclusive anime Blu-ray releases, which can only be found on the Crunchyroll store and can only be purchased if you are already paying them at least $13.99 a month.
Let me in! Let me in!
Obviously, I would assume that some of these are new releases, but I've noticed while looking them up that many of them are actually releases that dropped years ago, which appear to have quote-unquote went out of stock on other websites. They've also begun dropping some full season releases at long last for popular shows like The Apothecary Diaries, which they've been holding on to the licenses for years and only selling you the show in small 12, 13 episode chunks, but at least in the case of those, you can still buy them through websites like Amazon, even if it's clearly more pricey to go in that direction at this point. Which I guess, to be fair, it's only more pricey before you consider the fact that you would be subscribed at $14 a month for multiple months while staying subscribed, blah blah blah. But that's obviously not nearly as big a deal as the actual exclusive Crunchyroll store only releases locked behind the paywall. The thing that I found interesting about this, the Apothecary Diaries releases in particular, is once again, this is an incredibly popular anime, which they've been drip feeding to us through Blu-ray releases of 12 and 13 episodes at a time for years, making us wait and wait and wait for full season releases. And now that they're ramping up their plans for this exclusive store, all of a sudden they're capable of dropping full seasonal releases basically month after month. If you didn't know, the first season's steelbook release is dropping this month, and this one is a pre-order for November, which is just, it's funny how they've drip fed us these releases over years and years and years, and then all of a sudden they make it very clear to us they could have just done this at any time, just release these in full seasonal sets back to back, even if they're pretty damn expensive releases. Anyway, that's not nearly as big a deal as the simple fact that once again they are now paywalling actual physical releases, aka outside of piracy, the only way to own these, since obviously there's no way to buy digital copies of anime. They're paywalling incredibly popular Sony and Aniplex shows. You see Gurren Lagann, Rascal Does Not Dream, got another one of the Rascal Does Not Dream movies down here, the Madoka Magica movie trilogy, Kill la Kill, Licorice Recoil, Mashal, the Nier Automata anime, and obviously the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Blu-ray release. This one has been kind of the experimental Crunchyroll store exclusive release for quite a while now, but I did find it funny how it went totally out of stock before this transition and now it's right back. But yeah, I mean, what's wild is they've made so many of these popular anime exclusive to their store only, and look at how expensive many of these releases are. Crunchyroll and Aniplex releases alike here for $100 or more, and as far as I know, many of these are the only way to get them. Kaguya-sama Love is War, that's another one that I missed earlier. Once again, many of these releases that dropped years ago, and if you'll just look over here, like Gurren Lagann, for example, this is the Aniplex release. Both Aniplex and Crunchyroll are owned by Sony, for anyone who doesn't know. But these have been quote-unquote out of stock for quite a while, with you only able to buy them through very expensive third-party releases through resellers, I'm sure. Although if you have a region-free Blu-ray player, you can just pick up the anime LTD version for half the price of the one on the Crunchyroll store. Oh, and by the way, if you were to go to the actual source of that UK release here on alltheanime.com, you would see that they currently have it on sale for 33.33 British pounds, which amounts to about 45 US dollars. So anyway, I'm probably repeating myself at this point, but if you want to collect anime Blu-rays, you definitely want to get a region-free Blu-ray player and always check all of your different options, whether that's directly through a US distributor distributor, directly through a UK distributor, on Amazon, on eBay. You never really know where it's going to be cheaper at any given time, or what might be available somewhere that you weren't expecting it. But anyway, they're locking all of these popular anime behind the Crunchyroll store in these formats where the only way to get many of these shows now is going to be not only paying $14.99 a month just to get in through the front door, but then also having to pay $100 or more for many of these releases. And these really are exclusive releases. Once again, even though Licorice Recoil, for example, I believe this one dropped in 2023 through Aniplex, you might convince yourself if you go over to Amazon that this is part 2 of the same release. But if you go and check, it's actually the French subtitle version, so you're not gonna get around them that way. As far as I can tell, basically the only other place to find this is on eBay, once again through third-party resellers, and as you can see, even more expensive once again. So if you wanted to get a hold of Licorice Recoil, once again an incredibly popular show, which you know there is tons and tons of demand for, they could sell this show on Blu-ray in large quantities through an inexpensive regular release that was just a box and the freaking Blu-rays. But instead, they've locked it behind their exclusive store. And the thing that I can't help but think about here, and maybe this is just me being paranoid, but the thing that I can't help but keep thinking about after looking at this price here is one of the things that this is almost certainly going to lead to is people signing up for this subscription just to buy these exclusive releases and then scalp them through third-party stores. So what you're gonna end up with is a situation where some of the most popular shows coming through Crunchyroll and Aniplex are going to be relegated either to a situation where they're behind a $14 a month paywall and a $100 plus price tag, or you're going to find yourself purchasing them from third-party resellers who are essentially just scalping the releases. And it isn't like this is anything new. I'm not going to try to pull this up on here right now because I've got enough open anyway, but like for example, these are 2 releases, parts 2 and 3 of Revolutionary Girl Utena, but they're the, once again, Region 2 Blu-ray releases, which doesn't bother me because once again, I have a region-free Blu-ray player and I keep recommending these because it gives you so many more options and so many more opportunities to get these shows cheaper if you know where to look. But what I noticed when looking up those releases is that you can find them through US resellers on eBay and they're selling them for like $100 a pop. But if you know that those are sold directly through the Anime LTD store as well, you can go straight to the Anime LTD store, convert your USD to GBP or whatever, use PayPal, Visa, whatever you need to do, and pick up those same releases for £25, which is around $30 a pop. And unfortunately, because that's a niche market, which a lot of people don't know even exists, which I fear is what this is going to, become over the years, I fear that a lot of people are just going to end up getting scalped through this new model. But maybe I'm crazy. That's just where my fear goes immediately. Another thing worth pointing out again, as I said, I keep coming back to the idea of having a region-free Blu-ray player to give yourself more choices. I'm not saying you're always going to have a choice because Crunchyroll has done a great job of buying out a lot of their competition and cornering certain parts of this market. Sometimes, I'm afraid for some shows, you're going to be left in a situation where your only option is these exclusive releases, but like in the case of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, for example, if you run over to eBay, once again, you'll find that there is an import version of this very same show available and $124 for the Crunchyroll limited edition version versus $54 for the UK import, which obviously is just a normal Blu-ray release, which can be played through a Region 2 Blu-ray player or a region-free Blu-ray player, but it's still nearly a third of the price. And for anyone who gets worried, goes down and checks the description and thinks, oh, but it's a German release. But as you can see, this is the same release that I also got through Rarewaves of the show. Anime LTD, Anime Limited, all the anime. I don't know why they have so many names, but it's the same exact release by them. And as you can see, it has Japanese, English, French, and German dubs, as well as English, French, and German subtitles. And once again, it's just a basic Blu-ray release that will play if you have a region-free Blu-ray player. But once again, it's nearly a third of the price. I'm not saying that you're always going to have options like that available. I'm sure that some of these really are basically just impossible to get through any other means than buying through the exclusive Crunchyroll store, or just pirating them. But in many cases, you will find that there are UK alternatives which you can import, and as you can see here, if I had ordered it through the All the Anime store online, which is actually how I ordered these two, and the packaging and the experience and everything was absolutely wonderful. One of the best experiences I've ever had, especially considering that the package came from halfway around the freaking world. But yeah, I mean, you could order this release through eBay if you want to go through that route. You could order this release straight through All the Anime store. There's also MVM Films who does UK imports. That's another place that you can check for alternatives still. And as I discussed in another recent video, generally speaking, I have to say that I've had some of the most wonderful experiences I've had buying anime, buying it directly through random resellers on eBay. Obviously, you want to make sure that they have a really positive review score before you order anything like this from them. And, you know, maybe double check and make sure that it's not a bootleg, unless you just don't care. Yes. That's not legal advice, by the way. I've never ordered anything like that, but I've ordered plenty of imports, and as long as I've checked the language and the licensors, once again, anything coming from Anime Limited or MVM Films should have an English dub or at least English subtitles. And yeah, I mean, those are basically the options that you have to explore if you find yourself in a situation where there's an anime that you want to own physically and it's locked to the Crunchyroll exclusive store. Oh yeah, there was one other thing that I wanted to quickly point out here. I did notice there is at least one release here, one exclusive release, which is clearly a partnership with another US distributor, Discotek Media, who I do think tends to do really good quality releases. This is the steelbook version of their Berserk 1997 release. I obviously can't help but find it a little bit disappointing, but obviously Discotek Media's got to find ways to make money. Obviously they're going to partner with the biggest American distributor around, who is now Sony, Crunchyroll, Aniplex. And at least luckily this is a case where you can just buy the regular release through Amazon or eBay, or I'm assuming Discotek Media's actual website, wherever you want to buy it. You can just buy the regular release wherever else you want, so at least it's not like you can only get the Blu-ray release of Berserk 1997 through the Crunchyroll store. But yeah, this steelbook version is only available through the Crunchyroll store, even though it is a third-party distributor's release, so I figured that was an interesting detail that I shouldn't leave out. By the way, I apologize if people wanted more righteous indignation about all this, but like I went through that whole process sitting at work earlier today when I found out about this. I was absolutely fucking fuming at the time, but I just don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me this many hours later, I'm afraid. But hopefully I was at least able to put some decent thoughts together on what this means and, you know, what some of your actual alternatives and workarounds might be. Obviously, I've got other videos that I've posted recently, which you can go through, which discuss a lot of the Crunchyroll topics in more detail, as well as a nice big juicy video, which I just, you know, took a bunch of my Blu-ray releases off of the shelf and went over different distributors who I've purchased Blu-ray releases through both the US and the UK. If you've got enough patience to sit through, you know, the 40-minute version of that where I'm just pulling stuff off of the shelf and showing you what kind of releases they have, obviously you can go check that out right now. I am, however, working on scripting something out that's a little more concise and a little more precise with the details. Something basically just going over every US distributor and every UK distributor that is still available to purchase anime from. But yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know, like I don't even know, once again, given how infuriated I was earlier, if I was able to put together a real reaction to just how fucking dystopian this is. But yeah, $13.99 a month to buy some $100 plus Blu-ray releases for shows that you probably can't get anywhere else. What a strange time. I guess the one thing that I'll leave you with, the line that kept rattling around in my head in my righteous indignation, fuming at work, trying not to take it out on anybody around me. Thanks for subscribing, as Crunchyroll likes to say. We have successfully supported the industry. Here's your reward, I guess. I guess this is our reward. Pay a subscription to access a store to buy $100 plus releases of anime that you cannot get anywhere else. What a time to be alive. Anyway, I've been rambling long enough. This is probably a total fucking mess. This is obviously one of those things where, like, I had the concise, infuriated rant that I'm sure everyone would have wanted out of this, but that was hours ago, and I couldn't just sit there freaking fuming at work thinking about it. So, I just had to kind of let that feeling go. So, whatever this video is, it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. Anyway, I don't know what the fuck to say. Hope that you had a good day, and peace. Peace, as always.